So I'm speaking on pattern disruption techniques. So a pattern is just you can use like the phrase or the abbreviation PDT to describe a pattern and behavior which you do not find any longer useful. So this can be getting very angry, um, processing things like grief or sadness, things like that. Uh, Maybe there's a pattern in your life that you keep seeing, or that you would like to work on moving forward. So the first one is breathing. This is something that you're going to be using to disrupt the current pattern that you find yourself in. Whenever you see it come up, you notice it. That's the first technique, is to notice, and then start to distance yourself from it. So instead of acting on it like you usually do, you disrupt the pattern by choosing a different action or different course of action. So instead of acting on it, you simply notice it. It can be the hardest part that I found was in kind of justifying the action when I was really caught up in it. Like if something was making me angry, then I felt like I should express that anger, or like it was justified in some way. And that's just something that your ego, your identity is used to attaching itself to as a way of like, this is who I am. And the deeper layer like beneath that is, if this isn't who I am, then who am I? And that can bring up a lot of issues of identity and your place in the world and things like that. So the first one is simply noticing it, and noticing instead of acting on it. The second one is breathing. So instead of acting on it, let's say first you notice, then what? I mean, you may still be caught in the gravity of the habit of that behavioral pattern. So instead of acting on it, you can notice it. This is where I would get angry. This is where I would get self-protective, which is, I find a better way to phrase self-sabotage, right? Because self-sabotage isn't just that you hate yourself and you want to tear yourself down. It's that you're protecting yourself from something. I'm shaking this camera a lot. So I noticed that I was shaking the camera a lot, so I'm finding a better place to position it. So instead of getting caught up in that self-protective habit, the habit of anger, of burning bridges, of doing any number of things that you notice, of becoming anxious even, you can notice the anxiety and breathe. So instead of, like, it's going to want to keep sucking you back in, and so you stay with your breath for as long as you feel that feeling of anger, anxiety, depression, sadness, whatever you're feeling. And this is something very new, so it's going to take consistent daily practice. But the more you practice it, the more it becomes second nature. I no longer get anxious. I no longer am bedridden for weeks or months because of depression. My anger is so much better. I'm over the moon at how much I can manage myself in situations in which I used to become a freaking rage monster. So this is kind of like the why of it, right? Why would you do these pattern disruption techniques? Not just to change yourself, but once you start noticing how well you can manage yourself, there's a point of reference of who you used to be. And in this like new year, new me vein, who you were in 2019 at the end of this year doing these techniques, I promise you will be astounded at how much you can change and better yourself. You know, there's a saying of like, we're perfect the way we are, but we are becoming someone better every single day. And doing these techniques, I'm sure, I promise you, will move you further along a lot more quickly in that direction. So noticing, and then breathing, And then one that I like to do in the morning, especially because I'm a singer and a musician and stuff, and I used to be very quiet. I used to hold everything in and feel like my voice and my experience didn't matter. And so my neck became very tense. I like kind of lowered my head because like the body will express how you're feeling and your general self-worth. You know, people who are proud of themselves or who have self-esteem, like I used to not, and how I'm getting better at that. I noticed that the more self-esteem I have and the more self-esteem other people have, they stand a little taller. People who are depressed especially will kind of lower their heads, be hunched over. Your posture and your body will communicate to the world your general sense of being, especially in regards to your self-worth. Correcting your posture is like the fourth one, but coming back to the third technique is the kind of thing. It's kind of a hum, but with like an M sound. So I usually aim it right about here and put my fingertips right here on my diaphragm. Push out at the diaphragm. You see that? Push. Push. Excuse me. I'm not lifting my fingers at all. I'm just keeping them on my diaphragm. Push. And as I'm pushing, breathe and then repeat. I usually do it for like a minute and throughout the day. And what it's doing is stimulating the ventral vagus nerve system, which is a nerve that runs throughout your entire body into your brain. And I cannot overemphasize how important of a nerve it is. When you stimulate this nerve, your whole body starts to change. Your voice is going to open up. You're going to feel like it literally warms up your voice, your vocal cords, your vocal folds, and you'll feel the vibrations in your body, and it'll start to loosen up a lot of the tension you're carrying, which will then have kind of like a snowball effect throughout the day in terms of like your general state of ease. So if you're in a state of anxiety, general dis-ease, not at ease, it's going to be a lot harder to enjoy your time in the day-to-day. So that's the third one to practice, and the fourth and final one is posture. Come back to your posture. It doesn't have to be strict and rigid. In fact, I would hope that it's not very rigidly uptight and held up. It should be kind of like a very like relaxed coming into an upright posture. So a lot of the times your neck will kind of like, I see a lot of people kind of like doing this, and it's going to put a lot of strain on your neck muscles and tighten them up, create more, I don't know, like tension and dis-ease, which will then affect you in the long term. But yeah, noticing, breathing, the hum, and returning to your posture, pattern disruption techniques. Try them out. Let me know how they go. I hope they help. All right.